AskReddit by individual owl 6925. Sex workers of Reddit. Who was the grossest customer you've had? Thanks for reminding me how normal I am, Reddit. Seriously, how fucking vanilla am I? I'm the sexual equivalent of a Norman Rockwell painting. Used to work as a professional dominatrix. Had a client who brought a pet egg to a session and then ate my foot shavings. Had another client who brought yogurt to the session and paid me to watch him fuck the little Yoplait cup. The smell was atrocious. And of course, there are the many clients who never adequately prepared for a pegging. I honestly can't choose. Update: the Yoplait fucker was a Brooklyn Hasidic Jewish man. So if you choose to visualize it for some reason, make sure to include the payas, ringlets, swinging back and forth. The grated Parmesan foot cheese guy poured the contents of the pet egg, which also included my friend's foot parmesan, straight into his mouth. I think that I grated up some more for him to take home and instructed him to actually pour it over spaghetti. Wait, was that low-key cannibalism? Or mayo? Update number 2. Just unlocked a repressed part of the Yoplait memory. He ate the yogurt after fucking it. I got confirmation from another dom friend who's seen him. Fucking and eating the yogurt is his thing. He's notorious in Brooklyn. Everybody's so creative. Edit: seeing this now. I work at Amazon. 11-hour shift TN and not even halfway through. Thanks for the energy boost, y'all. I wasn't a sex worker, but as a taxi driver, I had many regulars amongst the sex trade. They all had the same character they point blank refused to entertain. He didn't believe in washing, either himself or his clothes. Reckoned it weakened a person. I was lucky enough to only have met him in the open air, but my nose was still traumatized. He was really miffed because none of the ladies would entertain him, and then I refused to take him in the car. Lol, no amount of money would have been worth that. He's a walking UT for those poor sex workers. Sheesh. Not me, someone I know creates content. Feet pics. Got paid $3,000 each for 2 photos. One of Lacey undies on the floor around her bare feet like she dropped them. Other photo of her having taken a dump in the undies, dropped them, and damp, then stood in it. She figured $6,000 for 2 photos that don't show her face isn't too bad. I'd have to agree. So long as I could do it in the bathtub. I'm not walking around my house afterwards. Not me, but a friend who escorts had a guy really into shaming. He would go through her trash can to find used condoms of other clients and start chewing on them, and he wanted her to start yelling at him and beating him for doing that, while he was on his knees still chewing on the used condoms. Welp, I don't need to scroll any further. Not gross, but I did have a guy that wanted to cut off my leg. How is that not gross? Online worker here. Had a guy who wanted me to make what was essentially a fake snuff film of myself, of course. Went into detail about wanting it to look like I had my throat slit so he could pretend to fuck the gash. I don't do custom videos anymore because of this dude. Edit to at: if you're in the adult industry and in need of therapy from any of these kinds of experiences, check out Pineapple Support. https://pineapple-support.org/. They offer subsidized help and 24/7 volunteers to listen. Exotic dancer here. I watched a girl get on stage with a bottle of Heineken and put it into her vagina, then do a handstand effectively drinking it. She then stood back up and the beer went back into the bottle and someone paid her to drink it. I've seen this done. I thought at the time that surely somewhere in the owner's manual it says putting yeast up there is a bad idea. I was a phone sex worker. The amount of men who wanted me to be a cold dead girl was a bit disturbing. This blew up after I went to bed. A few people have asked how I managed to do a dead girl over the phone. Basically, I described the state of my corpse and they detailed how they wanted to abuse me. In answer to another frequent question, I'm not sure phone sex work exists anymore, as I did this in the early 2000s before FaceTime and OnlyFans existed. At that point, why did they even call? They should have just picked up the phone and enjoyed the silence. I kind of have to take a shit. I'm seriously wondering if I should go to the bathroom or put an ad online and see if I can make a quick $3,000. $2,000, take it or leave it. Toilet pop please. My friend used to do this on the side cause extra cash, but she stopped when she had a guy pay her to peg him, and then as she was doing it, he shit himself and didn't want her to stop. He told her that it felt better with that kind of lube. She said she had to stop and gather herself and proceeded cause he was paying her $1K for the hour, but as she began again, that's when he began to jerk off and come all over the bed underneath him. She said that room smelled so bad afterwards. She said as she was washing up and getting ready to leave, he was just laying on his cum and shit stained bed. Like she said, he's literally laying on his shit and cum and naked and pleased with himself. She says he wanted her to do it again as he was laying there, but this time he wanted to be on his back while they did it. She says I politely declined and told him I had to get to another appointment. What's with everyone shitting themselves? I have a friend who was a pro dom in a dungeon in Nick for a few years, and she had a regular client who was an FBI agent. He was into mummification and would come in once a month to be bound in a body bag for 48 hours at a time. This is the most tame entry here. Dude just wanted a semi-permanent hug. I had a client who scraped the crotch of my panties with a knife, then put the scrapings in his pipe and smoked it. They weren't lying when they said it gets fucking weirder as we go down here. Before I went independent, I worked for a service. They sent me out on a call, and when I got to the apartment I had to be buzzed in. I opened the door and it's large loft style apartment and there are piles of trash everywhere. I'm standing in the doorway thinking oh shit, and I hear a voice from up in the loft telling me to come around and up the stairs. So I do, doing my best to avoid touching anything, and I climb the stairs and the entire loft area is a king size bed. Trash all around the bed and a massive obese man laying in the bed. Fortunately, it was incredibly quick. But I told the service I never wanted to go back. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. To answer some questions, yes, I went through with it. How did I get through it? Environment aside, he was actually really sweet. We chatted for about 30 minutes before he asked for oral. He finished within 2 to 3 minutes. Also, I've always been really good at disappearing in my head. At the time, it never occurred to me that I could say no. It was at the very beginning, and at that time I had a hard time saying no to begin with. I'd say he was more like Dale the Whale but younger. I pictured King Hippo from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I was a sex worker escort for 2 years. I was hired by a 73-ish-year-old professor, nice-sized public university. He hired me to go to his office and give him blowjobs. Yes, it was on campus grounds. Anyway, I'm giving him head and I smelled something foul. I wanted to stop, and as soon as I was about to, I see a lump of shit lodged in between his ass cheeks. I didn't want to embarrass him but told him that I was ready to go. I never agreed to see him again. He must have been experiencing extreme pleasure. I read the title as "Who was the greatest customer you ever had?" and was so fucking confused reading these replies. Yup, it was Peanut Butter Man. I had a client shit himself while I was blowing him, then got mad when I stopped blowing him. According to him, all men shit themselves while feeling extreme pleasure. Edit. You need to stop asking me if that's the professor. Definitely not, he was not old. And I'm based in Canada on a tiny little island. Edit. Yes. Blumpkin. Apparently I've never felt pleasure that extreme. Definitely the one that had head cheese after he washed. Second is the one, multiple sadly, with dingleberries. I've had them piss themselves. I've had them shit themselves. I've had them puke and whatnots. All just fine. Rancid, but I can deal with that. The ones with dingleberries were the most disgusting, usually high-placed jobs like seer of a Fortune 500 etc. Not a clue when it comes to washing your butt, let alone be aware of the clumps of literal shit that hang there because they don't wash properly and they don't even care. The absolute worst was the head cheese expecting me to suck him off after he supposedly washed properly. Nope. I gagged visibly and audibly. Lectured him about washing under the skin and kicked him out. I couldn't even look at it without gagging. Respect to you for telling them. I can't imagine how many girls have to deal with dick cheese, SW or not, or going down without the guy washing down there. Why did I learn English? To suffer. What I've learned so far. 1. Men have loose assholes. 2. Hide your nieces. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. Cause they shitting on everybody out here. Edit. My first award is about hiding children and wives, and shitting on people? Gee. Thanks Reddit. Not a sex worker myself but heard this from friend who was. There is a well-known lawyer in our town who has had commercials for his office on longer than I've been alive. He shows himself in a grand, beautiful office with gold-colored decorations and a gigantic portrait of his wife. But my friend and every other sex worker in town have all said, you would be shocked by what the people in this town are into. Every single one of them has used this guy as the weirdest example. He has a glass table in his office and pays prostitutes to crap on it while lays underneath and watches them do it. It's not harmful or anything, just really gross. One day, for my college newspaper, I had to interview this man in his office and saw the glass table where it happens. Fortunately, I withheld the vomit in my mouth. Edit. Wow, a lot of people here have correctly guessed the lawyer and I didn't think I'd encounter so many people from my hometown on here. Edit 2. Never heard of Frank Azar. The old glass bottom boat. My brother once was the maintenance guy in a brothel in Switzerland. One morning a guy came in and asked if the used condoms from the night before were still available. He wanted to buy, open and eat them. Every time I think about that story it makes my mind crawl. Also. What's with all the men coming and shitting themselves at the same time WTF? Edit. Great. Now my top most upvoted comment of all time is about shit and cum mayo. They are experiencing extreme pleasure. A co-worker's mother came in and paid another co-worker to spank her. But the mom said she wanted to be able to hear it. I gave a lap dance to what I thought was a couple. They were brother and sister. Fucking Lannisters. This thread is making me second guess my no kink shaming stance. Some people should definitely be shamed. You'll never shit yourself from extreme pleasure with that attitude. I thought a femdom customer of mine was into latex puppy mistress play, but nope, turns out he meant a real dog. Ugh, all of the dudes thinking they are being sly asking if I'm into the knot. Gag. Men wanting to smell sweaty ass and watch me shit. I'm a phone sex worker so this is all fantasy. On a glass coffee table by any chance? I am an actual FS sex worker. I've been doing this for about 6 years. Thinking about possibly quitting soon. Anyways, I had this guy who wanted me to make out with him with another guy's cum in my mouth. Not after a guy came in my mouth, while there was cum in my mouth. This obviously wasn't the easiest thing to do. So I had another client who became more like a friend, and when we got rooms I'd text cum guy and tell him to get ready. Any time of day night he'd be ready, so I always made a quick $160 in 10 minutes just for making out with a guy with cum in my mouth. This was about 4 years ago before I realized I am worth much more than I set myself at originally. Now I charge minimum $200 before I leave and get out of bed, and that's for only 15-minute massages. This job definitely leaves you scratching your head and genitals if you're not careful. This is more just an interesting story, but my mom used to be a prostitute in the 1970s. She worked at a massage parlor where she says she was the queen of hand jobs. She just turned 70 this year. Anyway, she said one of her regular customers would bring hydrogen peroxide to their weekly appointment, and he would first pour hydrogen peroxide all over her private parts, then pour hydrogen peroxide in his mouth, swish, spit it out. Then, he'd go down on her for an hour. When they were finished, he'd swish his mouth with more hydrogen peroxide and be on his way. Definitely not her grossest client, but I always found this story to be interesting. He probably thought the peroxide would kill any bacteria that would cause STDs. There are entirely too many poop and pedophilia stories in these comments. Had only seen poop related ones and was thankful. Then next comment under yours was pedophilia :